Do you manage conflict in a proactive way? I propose that you do it in 4 steps. I remember a lunch I attended with my boss, some of my colleagues, some important investors, and I was the only woman. My boss made a comment that really hurt my feelings, and without being able to help myself, it ruined my lunch, my emotional state changed, and it even affected my level of engagement and respect that I felt for him. Conflict is like that. When we're least expecting it, bang, it surprises us. It can take many forms. It can be those words that hurt us, it can be an argument, or simply when your needs and the needs of the other person don't match up. We like to pretend that nothing's happened. We tend to ignore it. We bury our heads in the sands like ostriches. But in my experience, conflict doesn't go away alone. On the contrary, if we ignore it, it can snowball until it's too late. So that is why I propose that, like we say in Spain, we take the bull by the horns and we manage conflict proactively. This doesn't mean we need to react in the heat of the moment, not at all. And this is why I'd like to share with you a method that I have been using, and it has been helpful to me. It has 4 steps. The first step is taking precautions, followed by contextualizing. Then comes planning the conversation and finishing by listening. Step 1. Precautions. It is important to take precautions to make sure the situation doesn't get out of hand. The worst thing we can do in a conflict situation is react in the heat of the moment before we have had time to think. So if necessary, ask the other person for time before responding. The situations we come to regret tend to be those where we let ourselves run away with emotion and end up saying or doing things that we come to regret. So having that time to pause is really important in resolving your conflict. Step 2. Contextualize. People don't get up in the morning thinking, "Ooh, I wonder whose day I'm going to ruin today." It doesn't work like that. We fall into conflict situations in an unconscious way. Also, there is a lot written about how we all see the world through our own lens, and that is affected by our life trajectory, our beliefs, our values. So the way we see a situation, no matter how offensive it might feel to us, is very different to how the other person is seeing that situation. So it's really important to step back. A good way to do that is thinking, what need does this person have in pursuing that course of action that creates the conflict? Third step, planning the conversation. Once we've had a chance to calm down and contextualize, we can start to organize our ideas, because that is a very good way to plan the conversation, to find really what are the root cause problems of that conflict and take away some of the noise. A good way to do that is to ask ourselves some questions to help us get to the bottom of it. For instance, does this person realize that this is the problem for me? What would happen if I do nothing about it? If I could ask this person for help without fear of the consequences, what would I ask for? Why would I ask for these things? What would be the alternatives? How can I help him or her? What would happen if I approach the conversation and this person reacts badly? Or what if it reacts well? So all these questions are just types of questions that can help us get to the answer to 3 key things that we will need to have that conversation. First, what is it I need this person to do to resolve my conflict? 2, how can I help him or her? And 3, what are the key messages I really want to communicate? So by having these 3 points in place, you can now start planning that conversation. Always have the conversation in person. It's really important to listen and adapt. If we try to have sensitive conversations in writing, we lose the opportunity to bring new information, to change our perspective, to change our words. So it's much better face to face. Also, face to face, we can use communication tools such as the tone of our voice, our volume, the body language, and even the feeling that we share when we're looking someone in the eye. The place is also important, so look for a place that is neutral, if possible perhaps over a coffee so it's more informal. And look for a place that will give you privacy and also make sure that you will be able to finish the conversation. Final step, listening. If you have no choice but to meet in the office, try and sit next to each other and not in a way that may give the sense of opposition. Don't be afraid to have your notes to hand, that plan that you prepared with the key messages you wanted to share. Take the initiative. Lay out the context for the conversation, that you'd like to have a discussion and looking for solutions that might work for both of you. Make sure you demonstrate that you have also tried to think about their perspective and explain why the conflict situation creates a problem for you. If that person is open to the discussion and you listen, you'll probably find that your own interpretation of the situation changes and the conversation will evolve. Many of the conflict situations that we find at work, I believe, are driven by misunderstandings, not by a real difference between the two parties. So taking the time to have this conversation is a very good way to find solutions, common solutions that will help you both. The reaction is out of your hands, but if you try to resolve the conflict in a proactive and collaborative way, it's more likely that you'll be able to find solutions. So next time you come into conflict with someone that you're going to continue to work with, I would encourage you to try and resolve the situation in a proactive way. Even if the conversation doesn't go according to plan, at least you will have done everything you possibly can and with your best intentions. And this behavior will help consolidate your reputation as someone that looks for solutions and not just puts barriers in other people's way. I hope you found this series helpful and let us know how you get on.